Barack Obama wants to redistribute the wealth. Well, I disagree. I think you need to earn what you get in life. So join me, because I'm going to be redistributing the truth, one word at a time, here on The Unsolicited Opinion.
Hey everybody, this is Maggie Rodden. How you doing today? My guest this morning is Sharon Sebastion. She's an author, writer, and contributor to various forms of media, including cultural and political broadcasts, print and online websites. And she has a book entitled Darwin's Racists that she has written, Darwin's Racists, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, which highlights social Darwinism's impact on Americans' political ideology and its influence on current policy out of D.C. I want to welcome Sharon to the show this morning. Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Hello, Maggie. It's good to be with you, and I have to agree with you. What you're doing is absolutely crucial. These are critical times when people need to step up.
Don't they, though? I'm telling you, it just infuriates me, Sharon, when I see these different things go on. You know, people always send me videos, and I watch them and that, and it's just, it is so stunning to me. How can you not think, I don't care how long you've had your head in the sand, how can you not see that there is something wrong?
Well, let me tell you what is going on. And people really, I know they're feeling it. They may not be understanding it. But currently, our government is making an historic, a seismic shift from representing the people to controlling the people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Maggie, it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever race, religion, upper, lower, middle class, every American is a target. And the sooner that all Americans know the facts and listen to shows like yours, the sooner we can all pull together and defend our rights and freedoms. I mean, the New York Times just reported how President Obama is continuing his onslaught of executive orders. I mean, this president is wielding his executive order authority far beyond what the Constitution intended. I mean, by the stroke of his pen, he's both bypassing Congress and the American people. He's simply signing his policies into law, including what we're going to be talking about today, Agenda 21. And, you know, historically, that's the way of tyrants and dictators, just sign it into law.
Yeah,
and everyone listening...
George Bush does the same. They all do the same thing.
Oh, you know, it's time that people wake up. It's on both sides of the aisle, what we're going to talk about and the problems that are ensuing from it. And I'm going to suggest that everyone listening must send a copy of your broadcast, this broadcast, to members of Congress, to their local and state representatives, so that they will have no excuse. I mean, time's up. They can no longer remain derelict in their duties to keep you a free people out there. So
we're not
I agree with you, Maggie. People need to wake up.
Yeah, they do. But unfortunately, we're not a free people anymore.
Well,
I mean, that ship has sailed. What we can do now is try to regain what we had, but what we had is gone. We aren't a free people right now. Yeah, we can still speak freely, but the days are numbered for that. Right now, we can still be on air like you and I are today and going to talk about these different things. But that's the days are numbered on that. Time is drawing nigh, and that won't exist. That is part of this game plan here, to silence any opposition to what it is that they're doing.
Oh, of course, and that's happening every day. The pressures are on, and part of what set me on the path to what we're discussing today was whenever I researched material for my book, Darwin's Racists, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And thank you for darwinsracist.com. That is the website. Thank you for mentioning it. And I'm going to tell you what the book reveals. It's the origins of what has led us to the fix we're in today. Our nation, as you're pointing out, is under siege from enemies within. And people first must know that the demise of this country is not by accident. And the party's not over. I mean, we are still capable of resurrecting the rights and the freedoms that are now being diminished. And I know that you've done excellent interviews with Michael Shaw of Freedom Advocates.
Yeah, I just had him on the other day, as a matter of fact.
Well,
Sharon.
Michael is like the guru on the particulars of Agenda 21 and ICLEI. So
yes, he is.
What I'm going to want to emphasize is the big picture, so Americans can see how the threat of Agenda 21 pieces together in their lives. I mean, let's just start with what it is. I know most of your listeners know, but a lot do not. Agenda 21 is a United Nations game plan. and this terminology is going to sound familiar. It's a UN game plan for the radical transformation of the global society through what? Through the redistribution of the world's wealth and natural resources, primarily America's, of course. And the goal of the UN's Green Charter, which is also known as the Earth Charter, is to restrict population and economic growth in the United States. The UN wants control of America's energy usage, individual property rights, that includes ranches and farms, and to control, and these are going to sound familiar, our food and water intake, health decisions, size of family, and they want to restrict single-family housing by making it pretty much financially impossible for many families to afford or keep their homes. And what Americans are unaware of is that these processes are already in play at the direction of our own government. Agenda 21 is about cost, control, and forced compliance on the people. It's a move to put America under global governance. And like you pointed out, Maggie, progressive politicians on both sides of the aisle have signed on to Agenda 21's sustainable development under the UN's Green Charter. The main pillars of Agenda 21's global scheme are to weaken the U.S. economy, encroach on Americans' individual freedoms, deconstruct us as a sovereign nation, usurp private property, override our Constitution, and impose population control on America by what? By means of abortions, sterilizations, and socialized medicine. So, by use of his executive orders, President Obama he's very anxious to implement Agenda 21 before, through his green agenda before the election comes. And you got to understand that whereas Obama's health care would have a vice-like grip on who gets medical care, who lives or dies, through his executive orders to the EPA, the government will have a vice-like grip on how Americans live.
Exactly.
So through his green agenda, Barack Obama has already flushed billions of dollars. I mean, he systematically bypasses the American people in Congress. Why? In order to serve the goals of the United Nations. So a lot of so-called green people out there, they have good intentions. We all want a clean planet. I mean, it's ridiculous that we want children and grandchildren and families not having a healthy planet to live on. But what they need to realize is that going green has been hijacked, and it's being used against America. So people really need to recognize the threat of Agenda 21. I don't know if you probably mentioned this, but the Republican National Committee reportedly just passed a resolution unanimously that Agenda 21 is a serious threat to our freedoms and America's independence, a threat to our sovereignty. And the battle is underway. Every American must get in this fight. First it's your money, then it's your freedom. So, again, what Americans need to know is that many in Washington and in their local and state governments support Agenda 21, whether it's through ignorance or intent. Either way, it's a bad thing. Voters must call them out. They have to demand that their representatives defund what these programs are about wherever possible. So,
I know one thing that I just got an email on this today about that CISPA, that internet bill, CISPA, that passed in the House. So people need to spend some time. It's like all we do nowadays, Sharon, is spend our time calling these elected officials, trying to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing, and not the treasonous activities that they are taking part in.
Oh, it is time to hold our representatives accountable. Let them know that we are finished with being a constituency without representation.
Hang on, Sharon. We're going to break 3 minutes. We'll be back. Don't change that dial. Sharon Sebastion is my guest. DarwinsRacists.com is her website. We're back. Sharon Sebastion is my guest this morning. DarwinsRacists.com is her website, and I guess you can purchase. I imagine you can probably purchase your book there, can they, Sharon?
Well, you can purchase it on the website, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, worldwide online book sites. You can
go a bunch of places.
Yeah, all over.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, good. So anyway, so let's keep going about these dastardly individuals that are selling the American people. Or let's just put it at they've sold us down the river. They're not in the process of selling us. We've already been sold.
Well, it's nothing new, Maggie. Fear-mongering in regard to global warming and just the Earth agenda, the Green Charter agenda, has been around since, there's an article. It was out of Reuters in 1982 about ecological disaster feared. It reported that a United Nations meeting on environment opened with an official forecast that the world faces ecological disaster as final as nuclear war within a couple of decades. Now, this was written in 1982. So within a couple of decades, unless governments act now. Now, we've been hearing act now, consistently. And it says that the lack of action, according to the UN, would bring, by the turn of the century, by the year 2000, and this is the UN, predicting by the year 2000 an environmental catastrophe which will witness devastation as complete and irreversible as a nuclear holocaust. And that's 30 years ago that the UN was calling for global collapse in the year 2000. I mean, that's heavy fear-mongering back then, and we've got heavy fear-mongering today. But let's just kind of update it, and this is, I think, important so people can understand how very personal this can be in their lives. There's a news article on Agenda 21 showing that it's already rearing its ugly head through the all things green, global warming hysteria front. And so Americans need to know what happens when the green movement combines with socialized medicine, or in our case, Obamacare. Under socialized medicine in England, where the Liberal government there has just really gone batty over all things green, and they also harbor Agenda 21 carbon footprint fears to the point of sheer lunacy. In the London Daily Telegraph, it reported that a woman seeking surgery was ordered to find a new doctor because her carbon footprint is too large, Maggie, too large for her 2-mile round trips to go to the hospital where she's been treated for 30 years. Her name is Avril McCullough, and she was told that the green traveling issues of her 2-mile carbon footprint restricts her journeys from her home to her hospital for her surgery. And some bureaucrat told Mrs. McCullough that she needed to get a new doctor and register that new doctor within 28 days. And the letter said that the government has green traveling issues regarding her carbon footprints, adding that and this is the letter, we feel it would be advisable for patients to register at surgeries nearer to where they live. We would be grateful if you could make the necessary arrangement to re-register at another practice, meaning another doctor, not of her choice. So I guess the bottom line there is socialized medicine mixed with the green agenda and the carbon footprint scam is today already denying access to a doctor or a hospital of choice. And some unelected government bureaucrat in the UK, being paid by taxpayers' money, just won't allow it. And then you ask yourself, so what does that mean to us? Well, the U.S. will have a 15-member panel of unelected bureaucrats to ration out Americans' health care. The so-called Obama Death Panel, as it's known, is headed up by Obama's guy, a fellow named Dr. Donald Berwick. And he's openly declared just how very much he loves England's system of socialized medicine. I mean, being a green extremist, Obama is already on record as wanting to restrict travel based on carbon footprints. And today, this president is implementing his Agenda 21 policies through the EPA in a rash of executive orders that circumvent Congress and constitutional intent. So, let's just do a brief overview so people will really, really get the gist of what Agenda 21 is. And if it in any way relates to policies coming out of Washington today. And I'm going to be very frank, because I contend that from the start that Barack Obama has drained the American Treasury, weakened America's defenses, is attempting to eviscerate the Bill of Rights, has ignored the Constitution, and he's divided the American people.
Oh, but they all do that, though, Sharon. It's not just him. George Bush did the same thing. Clinton did the same thing. His father just did the same thing. Reagan was certainly no hero. Look at all the crap he did with the Department of Education. They all do it.
Well, but I'm telling you,
Obama's the recent puppet doing it. That's all. They all do it.
And that's the recent puppet that we're facing today. And I think that's why we've got to stop it now And the person in the position of power right now is this president. And, I mean, all you have to do is look at the United Nations Agenda 21 and its Green Charter to find a blueprint for this president's actions. So what Americans have to ask themselves is why have we been in lockstep with the UN's Agenda 21? And over 2 years ago, I wrote an article called Obama and the UN, Agenda 21. I think you have it on your website, saying that the game plan is for a radical transformation of the global society. We're constantly hearing the word transformation. Now, President George H.W. Bush signed on to it in 1992 at the Real Earth Summit, you know?
Yep. Hang on, Sharon. We got to go to break 3 minutes. We'll be back. Sharon Sebastion is my guest. Darwin's Racists is her book, darwinsracist.com. I will link to it on my website, theunsolicitedopinion.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. We're back. This is Maggie Rodden. You're listening to the Unsolicited Opinion Radio Show. Sharon Sebastion is my guest this morning. Sharon, go right ahead, please.
Well, you know, Maggie, I think an important thing that people aren't really looking at yet is what's the end game for Agenda 21? And also, why do the policies of this administration and even past administrations, why do they match up with the United Nations written strategy through its Green Charter? Why is it, symbiotic? Everyone, no matter your political affiliation, literally get on the Internet and research Agenda 21, because a government that controls property, energy, and health controls everything. And the UN stated goal in its Earth Charter is to form a global governing body to oversee what? They state it this way: one world economy, a one-world legal system, and to have dominion over land, air, and sea. So the primary means to accomplish this, according to the UN, requires basically the deconstruction of the United States, its constitution, its economy, its laws, and its founding faith. So also in one of my articles, I think you may be posting on your website, I quote, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's warning of war and pestilence to come if the United States does not throw billions of our tax dollars behind the UN's green agenda. He says, according to the UN's Green Charter, America's refusal to act would represent a crime against present and future generations. In other words, the UN would consider America a criminal enterprise. I mean, with his appointment of his new atrocities czar, I don't know if you know about the new atrocities czar.
No, I hadn't heard of them.
Yeah,
who's the new atrocities czar?
Well, President Obama basically appointed Samantha Power as an atrocities czar, and by doing so, he's really given teeth to any accusations leveled by the United Nations against the United States. So, Ms. Power, she co-founded the Responsibility to Protect Act, and that in effect,
pre-crime. There you go.
Yeah, that in effect is a global military policy, and it was adopted in the UN in 2005, and it claims that a nation's this is amazing. It claims that a nation's national sovereignty, including that of the United States, can be revoked if a country is accused of war crimes, genocide, crimes against humanity, or ethnic cleansing. Well, how does this tie into what the Secretary General of the UN said? Well, he said, and is on record saying, that if the U.S. does not throw billions at the green global warming scam, that it represents a crime against present and future generations. In other words, crimes against humanity. So with his support of the Responsibility to Protect Act, Mr. Obama has given the UN a force of action against the United States. And I think, now this is me, but equally troubling, because I have a strong interest in our military, and they protect us, I want to protect them. So it impacts how this administration uses our military in conflicts worldwide that really will have no bearing on the security of the United States. Based on atrocities across the globe, our already weakened military can be sent in to fight battles for one side or another. And according to reports, the new atrocities czar, Ms. Power reportedly sees war, and this is a quote from Tom Hayden, much of a radical on the left. He says, that she sees war as an instrument for achieving her liberal, even radical values. And Power reportedly wanted a U.S. military invasion of Israel to force Israel into a peace deal with the Palestinians. And I will leave that to anyone's conception as far as what that would lead to. So Ms. Power is also married to Obama's regulatory czar, a fellow named Cass Sunstein. But back to the United Nations Earth Charter, it says, and it makes it very clear that it wants less people on the planet. It reads that the rise in human population threatens global security. And so what Americans don't get is that the UN views you and your family as the threat. The UN's goal is for Americans to use less energy, less water, less food, and less of, get this, less of our own natural resources, so that they can be shifted to poorer or emerging countries. And the Charter also calls for nations, primarily the United States, and this is amazing again, to give up its independence. That's written into the Charter. The UN's Earth Charter reads, in order to build a sustainable global community, the nations of the world must renew their commitment to the United Nations and support the implementation of its Earth Charter principles by signing international, legally binding agreements. So where's the proof that of our government's culpability and all that, you know? I can tell you that it started one time with a U.S. Senator named Barack Obama, where he revealed his intent for global governance of the United States. It was his Global Poverty Act that he tried to put through Congress. It did fail, but what he thought was a global wealth redistribution back in 2007. It was a redistribution scheme that targeted Americans to foot the bill for some $900 billion, with the United Nations acting as the wealth redistribution arm. And the money wasn't going to go to America's needs, but to those of other countries. So even as a senator, this president was quick to take America's hard-earned tax dollars to fund his agenda. And what he called for was equitable sharing of America's resources to be decided and allocated by the United Nations. So, you know, this may be going on for decades, for generations, but it's really hitting an apex right now. Like I said, the Obama's Global Poverty Act did fail in 2007, but now, you know, he's given it new life. And I'll tell you what, the report just out. The director of the White House Economic Council announced Obama's plan for a global minimum tax. It's expected to begin a massive global transfer or redistribution of wealth, Maggie. I mean, his economic spokesman is on video. I watched the video yesterday, and this may make you scratch your heads, but here's what he said. The representative for Barack Obama said, "We need a global minimum tax so that people have the assurance that nobody is escaping doing their fair share as part of a race to the bottom." I don't understand that. A race to the bottom, or having
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you watch him on video, and then he continues, or having our tax code actually subsidized and facilitate people moving their funds or to tax havens. Well, one thing is clear through all that: America is the target. We're the most giving nation on the planet, and then we're being told that we're not giving our fair share by our president. So at this year's Rio Plus 20, which you're very well familiar with, it's happening in June, which is the UN's World Summit on Sustainable Development. The goal there is to have all nations sign legally binding agreements. The UN also, in addition to the minimum tax, it wants a separate financial transactions tax worldwide, again targeting America, to provide income and free health care and education and housing for nations that can't afford it. And, of course, that's at a time where we're not taking proper care of our own. So whereas the monies would go to people in need around the world, possibly even to a globalist slush fund, because we always hold in suspect where the UN uses the money. But, again, it's Barack Obama's 2007 Global Poverty Act come to life. And now he can just sign on to it without consulting Congress or the American people. But, again, people need to realize that they are the target, regardless of their party affiliation, their race, their income. This money will be taken from you and sent to people elsewhere by a global governing body within the United Nations. Yeah. And it's an astounding thing. I'll tell you,
it is.
I want to bring things closer to home. I want to get inside people's homes on what's going on, and you let me know when we need to break, because I really want to explore this. People don't realize that through presidential edict, the EPA will have the power to force American homeowners to virtually rebuild their homes. The EPA has far-reaching powers being authorized right now by Obama's executive orders for homeowners to meet very stringent environmental requirements before they can sell their homes. And one of those examples is the EPA's, it's called the RRP rule. It's the lead renovation, repair, and painting program. Its claim is to prevent any ill effects of lead-based paint when you're doing repairs or renovations on homes that are built before 1978. Well, you think, well, 1978. Well, the thing is, some 80% of American homes were built before 1980. I mean, this EPA mandate will add hundreds, if not thousands, onto home improvements. And good luck. Good luck to seniors and people wanting to downsize to make their lives less expensive. So just go and talk to home improvement salespeople, and they'll tell you, if you want to repair or renovate your home, your personal property built before 1978, that if there's the chance that any lead in the paint could be disturbed, you must get your house government tested before you begin repairs. And the EPA is going to make really big bucks off the backs of homeowners because reportedly to the tune of $16 million, they'll be pulling in licensing fees with these contractors. So
let me interject something here, Sharon. Some of the Home Depots and other stores like that are already, some areas in the country, the local towns or counties have been going to those stores and asking for information on who purchased a water heater or maybe a new heating system, because they want to be able to correlate that with whether or not you got a permit to put a new water heater in your house. Mm-hmm. So they're going and getting this information so then they can find people for not getting a permit to do something on their house. I had a woman who's an attorney out in California on with me the other day, and she was talking about her fight in San Mateo County against code and just the outrageous things that they're doing, charging people, fining people. There's one instance that she cited, and it's just really incredible, that a code person had gone on their property and gone into their backyard, and then they checked the back door and found that the back door of this person's house was open. They went in the house, and then they cited them for things they claimed were in violation inside their house. So that's breaking and entering that these people are doing and getting away with it totally. I mean, we live in a communist state right now.
Well, it's a breakdown in ethics. It's a breakdown in morals. It's a breakdown. I tell you, under cap and trade, were Mr. Obama able to get it into law? Living in a house that doesn't meet the EPA green regulations that you're talking about for roofing or windows, doors, insulation, heating, cooling systems, whatever. Homeowners are going to be slapped with the fines, and you just described a very, very unfortunate circumstance that homeowners are in today. And again, unless you get these things corrected according to government standards, you cannot sell that house. So this is going to impact far and wide. And, of course, electrical companies continue installing those smart monitoring systems. And, what it does, it tracks household uses of energy. And, of course, we know that in time, those monitors reportedly will be able to shut off electricity in your household if you exceed government-regulated usage. So, let me just tell you, there's a Green Deal energy plan. Again, this is in England, where the Daily Mail reported that millions of homeowners who want to replace a broken boiler, or they want to install new windows or build a sunroom, whatever, they're going to be forced to spend hundreds more on green projects, that they're not going to be able to permitted to carry out their home improvement or repairs unless they agree to fork over additional monies for government-required attic and wall installation to any project that they want to build onto their home. So the other thing that I think that is impacting the home these days, which struck me as the stack and pack plan that we've been hearing about, this is just out from the U.S. Census Bureau, Maggie, and it gives us further insight of what's to come. The Census Bureau latest data reports that as of 2010, 4.4 million homes currently have 3 generations or more packed under one roof. That's a 15% increase in 2 years. And it's because of this a failing economy. Young and old, they're sacrificing their independence. I mean, we're all facing increases at the gas pump, utility costs, housing costs, food, all of which are spelled out in the game plan of the UN's Green Agenda, how to break down America.
Let me throw something in here, Sharon. I've had so many different people on my show talking about all different aspects of this, but thinking about multi-generations living within the same home. Out in the Antelope Valley of California, now that's up in the desert, it's in the middle of nowhere, and they are citing people if there are 2 cars in the driveway. Now you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Amazing.
This isn't like you're in an urban environment. If there are 2 cars in the driveway and they are registered to 2 different individuals other than the person whose name is on the title for that home, they are citing them. So a man I had on my show was telling me about somebody whose son lived with him and his son's girlfriend, and they were being cited because they had these 2 different vehicles in your own driveway on your property.
That is astounding.
Yeah.
That is astounding.
What's happening is just outrageous. You can't say it's outrageous enough. You can't emphasize that enough. What bothers me the most, Sharon, is how difficult it is to get people to wake up. It is so hard. They play this whole, the GOP is going to come to the rescue. Anybody but Obama, they'll be our man. They don't realize, they won't admit, they won't see that these people all work for the same handful of people.
Well,
the same handful of people control it all.
Well,
they run the banks, they own our government, they own our educational system, they own our religious institutions, they control the economies, they control it all. They won't admit that. They won't face what's really happening around them.
People need to wake up and have the passion that you have, Maggie. They must wake up because America's hardships today are going to pale in comparison.
Oh, you better believe it.
With what the progressives on both sides of the aisle have in store through Agenda 21 if they're reelected. So I'm saying to people, demand that every candidate, I don't care what party they're in, publicly state where he or she stands on Agenda 21. Bring it out of the shadows into the light. Again, Agenda 21 seeks to take control of food intake, health decisions, size of family, use of energy at home and at work, farm and ranch lands, and it wants to restrict single-family housing in favor of a stack and pack plan. Call every representative, every candidate out. This should be the question of, do you support Agenda 21? Make them state their stand, whether they're running for president or for local or state government. They must do it, and I'm talking from all parties, because what you said is absolutely truth. So, I tell you, this goes back a ways, and again, I've got to hit on the current powers that be, because they're insisting, as you know, President Obama insists that America must be transformed.
But George Bush did too.
Oh, I know.
George Bush Sr., they all did. So a better term is all of the presidents have participated in this since you had Woodrow Wilson helping the international bankers form their private little bank that has done more damage than anything else. And that's 100 years ago. So they're all on board with this hustle. Listen, I hear the cue music. We're going to break. Hang on, Sharon. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Sharon Sebastion is my guest. Don't change that dial.
Are you really in years? Sort of weather time. Are you gathering up the tears?
Hey, everybody. We're back. My guest this morning is Sharon Sebastion. Darwin'sRacist.com is her novel, which you can get right off of her website. Sharon, I have a friend who had sent an email to me. I can't remember what I had sent to him. He sent an email back. I'm so glad. Mitt Romney is our savior. Can't wait till November of 2012. This is what he has been deluded into thinking, that somehow the GOP is going to swoop in on their white horse like a knight in shining armor and save us, when the GOP and the Democrats both work for the same handful of people.
You know what I'd tell your friend? I would tell your friend that be careful with that thought. The problem is there are progressives on both sides of the aisle who are advocating.
Communists. These people are communists.
Well, call it like you see it, Maggie. I love the passion.
Communists. These people, aren't progressing anything. That term is not accurate. It doesn't really give enough punch to what these people really are. These people are communists.
I started writing
to enslave us.
Yes, I started writing articles about that very thing 3 years ago. Just Google Sharon Sebastion articles, and you will find that I was already saying we've got socialism absolutely come at us hardcore. And, the other thing that I think people need to realize that there's going to be a kind of a shift in focus from global warming to population control through the United Nations. Stephen Hayward of Powerline reported that the focus is shifting from the UN's big push on global warming to population control. And he wrote this yesterday in regard to the UN's intense focus on population control. He said, with the slow fade of the climate change issue toward political oblivion, the green authoritarians need a new bandwagon to jump on and flog. And so this headline in Scientific American Online is Manna from Heaven. World governments establish biodiversity panel. It's clearly from the if at first you don't succeed at the UN, try again school. Now,
yeah, that's for sure.
Now, biodiversity, if people don't understand what it is basically about the degree of variation of life forms within, say, a given species, the planet, ecosystems as a whole. It's to measure the health of the planet and the consequences, here we go again, the consequences of human impact on the environment. Well, we all want a clean environment, and we all want to sustain a quality lifestyle, but not to the disadvantage of humans. So listen for the word biodiversity to start popping up. The United Nations actually has designated 2011 through 2020 as the decade of biodiversity. In concept, it is, again, nature versus humans. And they're going to trot out Charles Darwin, of the theory of evolution, as one of their heroes. And as you know, I wrote a book on it called Darwin's Races. So, again, for a better understanding why they're doing this, just read the book, Darwin's Races. It goes into detail. But that shift is occurring to biodiversity because people worldwide are pretty much burned out, so to speak, with global warming. But its goal is the same, and it pits humans against nature. It's about population control. And this was just out in the New Atlantis. A fellow named Robert Zubrin writes that around the globe, around the world, population control movement has resulted in billions of lost or ruined lives. We must expose and confront the underlying anti-humanist ideology. And he, of course, goes on to call it horrific. He says, if the idea can be accepted that the world's resources are fixed, then each new life is unwelcome. Each unregulated act or thought is a menace.
Hang on, Sharon. I hear the cue music. We've got a quick 60-second station identifying break. Don't change that dial. We'll be right back. DarwinsRacist.com is my guest website. We'll be right back. This is the Unsolicited Opinion Radio Show. My website is 3 words, theunsolicitedopinion.com, theunsolicitedopinion.com. I will link to my guest website up on mine under the tab entitled Podcast. There is a ton of information on my website. I link to a lot of people with tons of information. We have a caller on the line, so before we go on, Sharon, how about we grab this caller who's been hanging on a little bit here?
Sounds good to me, Maggie.
Okay, Arthur in Georgia, go right ahead, please.
Hi, ladies. How you doing?
Good. Go ahead. How you doing?
Maggie, I want to thank you so much for your show. Ever since you've come to RBN, you've made it so much easier for me to research Agenda 21.
Oh, I'm glad. Good. I'm glad.
Your website is, man, it's such an invaluable resource. It's I can't even just explain how thankful I am for your work. And Ms. Sebastion, you said something a little while ago about this worldwide tax, if you will. I can't remember your exact words, but you were talking about this tax to other countries, and the money would be going to other countries. So if I could have a minute, I'd like to play the role of the ghost of Christmas past. There was a treaty back in 1960 called the Framework Convention on Climate Change. And this treaty outlined the foundations by which to establish this one world government. I'm sure you two are familiar with this. And what we need to keep in mind is that under the Constitution, there is a provision which requires a 2/3 majority in the Senate to approve any treaty, which is why the Kyoto Protocol never even made it to the floor. But this treaty is set to create this one world government. Again, I'm sure you're familiar with it. And, of course, what it does is it gives the powers that be the power to involve themselves in the economy and environment, to transfer and redistribute the wealth throughout the world. And this would essentially be a tax of approximately 2% on the gross domestic product of all wealthy developed countries and then given to the poorer countries. Now, in Annex 1, paragraph 38 of this treaty, is where you actually find direct mention of the world government, the one world government. Now, Lord Christopher Monckton has been involved in many treaty negotiations, has even written one treaty himself, and he said that he has never seen a single government referenced in this fashion as it has been in this treaty. And this is what brings us to Annex 1, paragraph 36, where they talk about how they're going to close down the free market and how they'll have the capacity to interfere in all financial markets worldwide. And here also we find the provision which allows them to be able to tax all countries at 2% of all financial transactions as well. And according to Ambassador John Bolton, he says that the United Nations will be running this complete show. And, of course, as we've done our research, we now know that this is true. Now, you want to talk about a globalist, power-hungry, socialist, Marxist, Nazi mentality. This is a Pandora's box that, if opened, I don't know how we can shut it.
On that note, hang on, Arthur. We're hitting a break. We'll be back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back, everybody. Don't change that dial. Hey, everybody, we're back. This is Maggie Rodden. You are listening to The Unsolicited Opinion. So, Art, get to your point, please. What's your question for my guest?
Well, I guess basically I would like to hear a lot more conversation about this particular document because I think this really strikes at the core of what's going on. And I have a document, Ms. Rodden, that I would be interested in sending you. If you don't have a copy of it, it's the Copenhagen Agreement under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, draft 271109.
Well, send it to me, Art. But what is your specific question? You want more conversation on this global tax? What is it that where you're going here?
Well, I think if we really start getting into this document, we can find an interesting way of connecting all of this together because I think this is one of the very first documents that helped to get this started. This goes back to 1960.
Maggie, he is.
Don't ever hear anybody talking about it.
He is so right, and this is a man, this is one of your very informed listeners, which you do have some of the most informed listeners I've ever heard. This is one American to other Americans say, wake up. It's so exciting that he will send the document. There is a foundation for most everything that happens, and he's saying that this is the foundation for what the repercussions that we are experiencing today and will be experiencing in the future if we do not stop it. So Arthur is one American to other Americans saying, wake up. I've got the documentation. I have the proof. I have the facts. All you need to do is go to Maggie's website. It'll be posted. Read it. And I can't thank you enough, Arthur, for your phone call.
And I thank you, ladies, for all your hard work.
Send it along, Art. Thanks for calling.
You know, Maggie, that's in someone being informed. Somebody.
Oh, yeah, Arthur's very informed. He calls regularly. He's very informed about what's going on there. See, the people that listen to this network, the majority of the people who have been listening for any length of time, and even people are tuning into this network and hearing this because it goes out all over the place. A lot of people are waking up to what's going on. The problem is, Sharon, that there's not enough, and they're not waking up soon enough.
Well, that doesn't stop us from getting the information out, and I'm going to tell you, I do not have a pessimistic view. I do understand that the battle is on, but I do know that people are, from one end of this country to the other, stopping, their any frivolous activities, pop culture, and they're starting to tune into things that are now impacting them personally in their homes, in their pocketbook. They know something is wrong and seriously wrong, so they're starting to pay attention. This is the time to help those folks come up to speed on what it's all about. And if we get back to say the fact that those who control the population have the power that we were talking about. That radical environmentalism, which, again, your people need to understand, is a root cause of part of what's going on. It feeds the global warming hysteria about saving the planet, and how do you do that? You control population. And how do you do that? You protect nature over humans. And, again, I detail today's environmental frenzy in the book Darwin's Races because it has roots in Charles Darwin's theory of evolution through a man named Erasmus Darwin. And people don't know that Darwin was Charles Darwin's grandfather, and he greatly shaped Darwin's thought. And the UN is going to pull Charles Darwin out in the biodiversity argument and use him as an example of why they need to be doing what they're doing and that we should accept it wholesale. I mean, what Erasmus Darwin did, he avidly called for society's equal treatment of our brother ants and sister worms. And environmentalists today, as you know, they shut down the water supply in California's prime farmlands to protect tiny minnows, while farm families went hungry. Environmentalists are blocking the job-producing Keystone Pipeline because they insist it may exacerbate global warming, do environmental damage. It's really the nature over humans mentality. And it's going to be interesting what they come up with if that pipeline is rerouted. But, let's fast forward on this issue to today and be reminded of the current regulatory czar, Cass Sunstein, who also idealized that animals should be allowed to sue humans in court. This is a man appointed by Barack Obama as one of his czars. Radical environmentalists today do value nature over man. Their thinking is that if you kill off enough humans, and particularly through abortions, sterilizations, and denial of adequate health care through rationed medical care or socialized medicine, Obamacare, then you serve the planet by basically controlling human population. And, Maggie, just think, and I'm sorry, this is just a little tangent of mine.
Go right ahead. I don't mind. Go right ahead.
Well, it's amazing that the Obama administration is trying to make women think that its abortion plan is about protecting a woman's right to contraception. Women are recognizing the absurdity of paying for a total stranger's sexual behavior and their appetites, whether it's male or female. The thing about population control is that government elites believe that you, the lowly masses are inferior humans. That's very Darwinistic, and that you represent the problem. They want population control, provided they get their waivers from it. And, the second thing we're talking a little about so people can understand that evolution devalues life. Population control really devalues life. It talks about the lowly masses needing to be controlled and even depopulated. This is evolution, Darwinism, through abortion, sterilization, and lack of adequate medical care. So, to them, inferior people were a burden on the planet. I'm talking about the social Darwinists. Today's radical green environmentalists, from whom our president curries favor, they espouse that same view, that in order to save the planet, millions of people must go. So again, where's the proof? Well, let's bring in President Obama's hand-picked science czar, a fellow named John Holdren. In one of Holdren's books, he proposed laws to best regulate compulsory population control through what? Through abortions and sterilizations. Holdren theorized how sterilants could be put in the nation's water supply to sterilize humans as long, he hoped, as it does not harm livestock. I mean, you can't get much more nature over man than that. It's very Darwinian, and it's very much man playing God. Now, this czar, this man, currently reports to Barack Obama. For what? To advise him on how to regulate your life. So social Darwinists in the UN and in our government, in the White House, on both sides of the aisle, are very big on population control through abortions, sterilizations, and socialized medicine. It seems to be that's all we hear about these days. So, of course, the ultimate proof is in our president's actions. For 3 years, this president has doggedly focused on socialized medicine, on abortions, and sterilizations. And he has relentlessly been imposing an unrealistic and ill-thought-out green agenda that is leading to the collapse of the U.S. economy. So what? Is it incompetence or is it a game plan? Through Agenda 21, Obama really seems to be bowing to the United Nations, to the agenda of globalists, who are in the process of shaking down and taking down our country. So,
this isn't incompetence. This is deliberate behavior. No different than George Bush wasn't incompetent. He was deliberately following the dictates of his puppet masters. No different than Clinton wasn't incompetent, or George Bush Sr., or Reagan, or any of the others.
And it's time
this is not incompetence.
It's time we call them out. The American people need to ask everyone running for office, what is your position on the United Nations Green Charter, or Earth Charter as it's also called, and Agenda 21? Once you understand that loyalty to Agenda 21, you even understand why progressives and even the president are doubling down on their green agenda. It becomes evident that they are in concert with the United Nations to bring our nation under what? Global governance and control. When you understand that, you understand that all of the supposed wrong-headed policies that everyone's confused about are not by accident. Like you said, it's not by incompetence. It's premeditated, and it is orchestrated. And it's just really, really time that people wake up to that.
We've got another caller on the line, Sharon. Let's take George in Texas. George, are you on with us? Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, hello, ladies. Thank you for, it's been a very good show. I talked to my state representative, and one of the things he's going to do, and he's going to try to propose in the state legislature, this is a part of the Agenda 21, it's more like, because he says he's very concerned that a lot of these counties and cities are bypassing the legislature, implementing Agenda 21, and he's looking at, if they're going to implement, like, if Homeland Security or Agenda 21, that they're going to have to, that counties and cities are going to have to go through the permission of the state legislature, because he's starting to see a lot of this Agenda 21 stuff violates the charters of many of these entities, and it's the state that charters the counties, the cities, and, and a lot of these agreements violate those charters. And, because he wants to bring this under control, because he's starting to see, get very upset that these counties and cities are bypassing the state legislature and state government.
Maggie, that's the tentacles of Agenda 21. That has been planned from the beginning to do exactly that through ICLEI, which we could do an entire other show on. But your caller is right, and how good of him to contact his state representative. How about everybody else doing that? How about everybody else getting out and finding out the mentality on Agenda 21 from your PTA to your school board to all the way up through the candidates running for President of the United States? It's time to put it into the spotlight. As he just pointed out, it's affecting local, very small communities to large communities, municipalities. It's infiltrating at a level where it was designed to infiltrate, to bypass state and state government control.
Can I stay on after break?
Hang on, Sharon. Yeah, you can hang on with us, George. Hang on. We're going to break. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Don't change that dial.
If you're not prepared, GetPreparedExpo.com. The biggest and best preparedness expo in the USA. Coming April 28th and 29th. GetPreparedExpo.com. Over 125 seminars and exhibits. Survival gardening, water filtration, long-term food storage, freeze-dried foods, heirloom seeds, storm shelters, survival communications, solar power, herbal medicine, heating with wood, living off junk, home defense, guns, ammo. Negotiate for your life. Homeschool your children. Start your own home-based business. GetPreparedExpo.com. Ozark Empire Fairgrounds, Springfield, Springfield, Missouri. Saturday and Sunday, April 28th and 29th. Meet your USAPrepares.com instructors. Vincent Finelli, Jeff Olson, The Freeze Dry Guy, John Moore, Matt Stein, Larry Pratt, Dr. Julie Pennick, Beth Ann, David Christopher, Julia Shoppick, Robert Allen, and over 30 more. GetPreparedExpo.com. Download program flyers and $8 discount coupons at GetPreparedExpo.com. Don't miss GetPreparedExpo.com. Saturday and Sunday, April 28th and 29th. GetPreparedExpo.com.
This is an important message from HempUSA.org for our listeners who are advancing in age, baby boomers, and to all who want to be healthy. We urge you to try our microplant powder and see the difference it makes in your life. Please visit HempUSA.org and read about microplant powder. It's easy to take, 1 heaping tablespoon in any liquid 3 times a day. Call 908-691-2608 or visit HempUSA.org. Please inform your family, friends, and relatives about this incredible product. It can change your life if you give it a chance. So try microplant powder today. Call 908-691-2608. In this toxic world, microplant powder can help now in cleaning out heavy metals, parasites, viruses, fungus, and bacteria. Please download our catalog at HempUSA.org today.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
A healthy heart starts with Extendovite. I've always believed that I had to have a strong defense to overcome the new superbugs of today. Extendovite, a 7-herb heart protection cocktail, not only helped me to overcome a massive heart attack, but it also has built up my natural immune defenses against colds and flus. Extendovite has so many benefits that we all should be taking Extendovite to build up our defenses for what superbugs might emerge yet. So start today, clean out the toxins, and be as healthy as you can be. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. I spend a lot of money and I spend a lot of time. The trip we made to Hollywood is that's what caught my mind. After all the things we done and seen.
Hi, everybody. We're back. This is The Unsolicited Opinion. My name is Maggie Rodden. My website is 3 words, theunsolicitedopinion.com. Theunsolicitedopinion.com. I will link to my guest Sharon Sebastian's website, Darwin's Racist, on mine under the tab entitled Podcast. George, go ahead, please. You wanted to throw something else in?
Yes, I've been talking to people because they've been trying to go at the constitutional angle, you know, going after these cities and counties for Agenda 21. But I would say, people, why don't you go look at the charters of the counties and cities? You'll find out that these agreements they go into, if it's, I don't care if it's Homeland Security or Agenda 21, a lot of these agreements violate that charter. And you can sue them on the violation of that charter because many of these charters said are supposed to be, these entities are supposed to be autonomous and self-sufficient, self-sustaining. They're not supposed to be accepting outside resources to function. I mean, just look at the charters. You know, not only go at the constitutional angle, but go at the charter angle. We could probably get Agenda 21 out of our area by just looking at the charters.
Well, you know, George, were you listening the other day when I had Michael Shaw, and he was on with me on Wednesday, and he was talking about charging these elected officials with misprision of treason, because what they are doing is implementing international dictates. Therefore, they are committing treason because they are supposed to be supporting and defending the United Nations or the United States, and they are not doing that by implementing, for example, ICLEI, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. Were you listening to that show by any chance, George?
No, I was actually out of town.
Okay, well, go back, listen to the podcast of Wednesday's show with Michael Shaw, who's with Freedom Advocates, is his website, which I've linked to on mine as well, right on the main page, George, on the right-hand side under recommended. His website is there, Freedom Advocates. But listen to Wednesday's show because he talks about filing these charges, if you will, against all of these people locally who are helping to implement this agenda so that, just listen to the show. It may be very beneficial, and I think that is a strategy to use because these people need to be called out for exactly what they are. They are not good citizens. They are not supporting and defending the Constitution as their oath dictates that they do. They are undermining the people of this nation.
Well,
every step.
Can I make one more point?
Sure, go ahead, George.
I talk to people in Russia. Russian is my second language. Now I know a couple people work for the government, and in a lot of ways they're moving away from Agenda 21 because they are encouraging people to go out and buy colloidal silver generators. Also, they're encouraging people to grow gardens. They're even encouraging people to have children. I mean,
I haven't figured out yet what Putin's got going on there, but he certainly recognizes Christianity, and he certainly seems to be interested in the continuation of Christians in Russia, which is rather interesting to me because that flies in the face of what's going on with these cultural Marxists and the denigration of Christianity and the denigration of white people throughout the world, which is one of their goals, of course. So that's interesting to me. But George, that now that you tell me can you read Russian too?
Like I say, my Russian is sort of like enough to get me in trouble, enough to get me married, but very little I can read in Russian. But
okay. Well, people who can read Russian then, huh?
Well, I can. I mean, if I get out a dictionary,
Well, the reason why is because Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the last book that he wrote, Our 200 Years Together, was only published in Russian and French, and I would like to find somebody who could translate that book for me. I've got several chapters that someone sent to me that have been translated into English, but the rest are not. And, of course, it wasn't translated, deliberately not translated into English, so I need to find somebody who can read Russian.
Well, the thing is about eugenics policies, back in the 20th century, and even like Russian ladies recognize this, Joseph Stalin and the Red Terror and the communists, because communism, all it is just a basic eugenics program.
That's right.
That's all it is. And he says that Russia wiped out the best and most brightest people, the most smartest people, and all they wanted was dumbed down masses. They didn't want people who could think.
George, I would recommend that, and you're already knowledgeable, but I write extensively about eugenics, which is breeding human beings. It's a concept that came from Charles Darwin's first cousin named Francis Galton. And anyone who wants to know about that, again, pick up the book, Darwin's Racist. You can go to darwinsracist.com. It's written about extensively in the book. I think you will get an idea from this book why we're in this fix today regarding the mentality toward the value of life of human beings. So, George, you're right on target about eugenics.
Well, thank you, ladies. I'll finish out the rest of the show listening.
Okay, thanks, George. I appreciate it very much. But go to Michael Shaw's website, freedomadvocates.org. Listen to Wednesday's podcast, George, where he talks about misprision of treason. Okay?
Maggie, I couldn't agree with you more. Michael Shaw, again, is a guru, and as far as knowledge base, and his Freedom Advocates website is a wealth of information.
Yeah, it is. Hang on, we got to hit another break, Sharon. We'll be back in 3 minutes. This is the Unsolicited Opinion. Sharon Sebastion is my guest. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, we're back. Sharon Sebastion is my guest this morning, author of the book Darwin's Racists. So Sharon, tell me, did you get involved with the cultural Marxists, Adorno, Marcuse, Horkheimer, those people, the German Jews who came over here from the Frankfurt School in Germany in the early 30s and went into Columbia University and then decided they'd make the long march through our institutions to take down this nation? Did you do some research on their role in what's happening? Did you do any of that?
What I did research on was a group called Fabian socialist with the very same intent. As a matter of fact, there was a group. They were Darwinists back in the day of Darwin, and they evolved into the Fabian socialist. The Fabian socialist in England spread to America, where they became known as basically your liberals. And liberals then, because they were forcing socialism on the country, and again, the Fabian socialists became liberals because they were forcing socialism, Marxism on the country. So they then changed their names to liberals, and from liberals, when they were, voters got wind that they were forcing socialism, Marxism on the country, they changed their names to progressives. And that's history. That's a written fact. So yes, this has been underway for a long, long time. And the United Nations, of course, seeing an opportunity to take down America, they're advocates of all these ideologies. And let me just also, Maggie, bring people up to date as to why the UN is switching their gears off of global warming over to population control or biodiversity. I think this is important for people to just be updated on. The Met in the UK reports that there has not been increased warming of the Earth in 15 years. That's backed up by a recent report from the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan that says the sun appears to be entering a period of reduced activity that could result in lowering temperatures on Earth. And again, that's according to Japanese researchers. And then you have a report out of Alaska, a major study that now reports that not only are the polar bears back, but that they were likely never endangered to begin with. And that's according to Paul Waldy of Canada's The Globe and Mail. It reports that a new survey shows that the polar bear population across Canada's Arctic region is far larger than many scientists thought. A fellow named Dreykus Gissing, the Director of Wildlife Management Canada, he said that the study shows that the polar bear population is not in crisis as people believe. He said there's no doom and gloom. He further said that the media has led the people to believe that polar bears are endangered, and he unequivocally states they are not. He added that the number of polar bears across Canada's Arctic is likely at the highest population level that there has ever been. These are recent reports. This is why the United Nations is cooling on its global warming agenda and shifting it over to a more population control, biodiversity, which really is has the same principle and the same goals. So, basically, it's just time for people to get the update information because they're not going to get anywhere else but on your show, Maggie.
Yeah. We've got another caller. Sharon, let's grab Paul in New Jersey. Paul, you on with us? Go right ahead, please.
Yes. If people were perfect animals, I don't think we'd have many of these problems, nor would we need government. But the fact of the matter is, I go out into nature, and I see all kinds of litter strewn all over the place. I see cigarette butts tossed out constantly everywhere, right? So clearly, environmentalists are people who are, I think, at least sensitive and trying to do something about the environment, and they're looking for some kind of government intervention. Now, the corporations, they seem indifferent, right? And so there's really no big environmental anything out there, in my opinion. You may sound it's a big...
There's no big environmental anything. What? What do you mean, Paul?
Well, let me just say that.
These people who want to kill you off, they only got your best intentions at heart at that, right?
Oh, yeah, well, first of all, I don't see any killing off. Okay. Second of all, do you? I see people of life.
As a matter of fact, actually, Paul, I do.
But I'm saying...
As a matter of fact, I do, Paul. And I don't think environmentalists who think that they should decrease the world's population, their words, not mine, by 85%.
That's right.
Don't have any intention of fulfilling their goal of decreasing the world's population by 85%, Paul.
Right,
their words.
It includes
Paul. They're just making it up because they're just concerned about a cigarette butt thrown on the side of the road, do you, Paul?
Well, listen, I'll tell you. There's a species that just went extinct recently in China. It was a little
They
river
go
dolphin.
all the time. What happened to the dinosaurs? We had
It's
nothing
the mollusk.
There's the ivory-billed woodpecker is extinct.
So
So
what?
species
So what?
have gone into extinction. What
They
would you
have,
ladies,
Paul,
since
what
you ladies
happened
are
to
so
the
wise,
dinosaurs? No.
Tell us what
happened
you would
to
do.
the dinosaurs, Paul?
what?
What happened to the dinosaurs? Where did they go?
They just extinct. So wait, so you think the ivory-billed woodpecker, it's like no big deal,
process.
right?
Paul, honestly, you know what? I normally have a lot of patience. Today is not the day. Thanks for calling, Paul. Thanks for calling.
Let me
I'm just,
say
you know what, Sharon, I'm not interested. Right now, today, I'm not in the mood. I don't suffer fools gladly, and I am no longer in the mood to allow people to come on my show and spew their brainwashed crap. I don't have the patience for it today.
And
Sorry,
I don't
Charlie,
blame
that's
you.
just tough life.
I do not blame you, and I think the country is out of patience and should be. And let me just say to Paul, I covered all of that about evolution and the extinction and the fraud of evolution, and I've cited major scientists, the history, the science, the geology of evolution. Please, Paul, go buy the book, Darwin's Racist. Bring yourself up to date. Bring yourself up to date on the DNA. Bring yourself up to date on everything you're talking about. And one last point. Do you think that any of us want to see a cigarette butt thrown on out the window? Do you think that we don't want a clean environment? That's not what we're talking about. Paul, you need to wake up. You're missing the point. Of course, I would be appalled at anyone tossing cigarette butts everywhere or trash all over the place. I don't like the plastic washing across the oceans of the world. I have problems and issues with that. Those are regulations that make sense. What we're talking about is something entirely different. So you cannot say that just because we don't buy into the green agenda, that we do not bow down to it, that we are not interested in a better and more efficient way of cleaning this earth. So you would be wrong on that count. But please, buy Darwin's Racist. Become educated about the misstatements that you just made. And I don't mean to be rude, but I must say, I am with Maggie. You just need to get up to date on modern science. And you know, I'm going to be honest with you. This doubling down on the green agenda, I think there are two reasons why this president is not allowing America to use its natural resources to turn around our economy, and why he's imposed like these draconian economic, defense, environmental, these anti-constitutional policies that, if continued, I mean, they're going to collapse America into a third world socialist status.
Exactly.
And I believe that the ultimate goal is to place this great nation under global governance. And what the United Nations wants, and Obama seemingly supports through his policies, is the UN's dominion over land, sea, and air. That's worldwide. And according to the UN's Commission on Global Governance, that includes the United States. All you have to do is read it. It further states that the UN also wants control over the world's natural resources. That includes America's water supply, food supply, energy resources, animals, fish in the sea, and as you mentioned earlier, there's an extra measure. The UN wants control of radio waves, the internet, and all means of communication. Now, we talked about the UN wants to levy an international tax on everything. Well, if Obama can keep America's natural resources from being used by our current or for our current needs, thereby he keeps us off the road to recovery, then the UN reaps that bounty. Worldwide and in the United States, globalists are laying the groundwork for that to happen. And that's, of course, unless freedom-loving Americans foil the power and riches scheme at the ballot box. And again, be wise to progressives on both sides of the aisle. There's no sure and clear answer, but you can start putting people in position who understand the threat that is really out there, understand the threat of the UN's Green Charter, of Agenda 21. Again, go to Maggie's website, go to Freedom Advocates website, write your email a link of this show to your congressman, your representatives in Congress, in the state, and the local governments. It doesn't take you, 5 minutes to grab this link of this show and shoot it out there to all of your acquaintances, all of your representatives. Get busy. Do something. Your freedoms are at stake. First, you're seeing your money drained out of your pocket. Now you're seeing your freedoms being encroached upon. Again, it is not by accident. It is orchestrated, premeditated. And I'm so grateful for shows like Maggie so people can get educated.
Yeah, it's so way beyond a cigarette butt on the side of the road.
Oh, so.
That, I mean, all you got to do is look at their own documentation, look at their own words, look at the Global Biodiversity Assessment page 773, where they tell you that they think the population of the world should be 1 billion. Hello, we're at about 7 right now. What does it say they're going to do?
Exactly.
They need to eliminate 6 billion of the people. Paul, wake up. I'm telling you, honestly, I really don't have any patience today. I'm like at the end of my patience.
Well, the other thing that I think people are going to, whenever they really wake up, is when the compliance plan, the compliance arm of the UN's plan comes into existence right here in our own country, where the word mandate, people need to know that when in political speak, mandate means to force you.
Exactly. It's not, there's no option in there.
That's right. You're going to be fined out of existence as a company. You're as an individual. The IRS has just been given $150 million allocated by Obama to get behind and mandate. It's going to be the enforcement arm for Obamacare. The same thing can happen under the EPA, where there will be mandates to force you to absolutely meet stringent EPA regulations in your life. And if you think you're not seeing them this year, you just wait until next year. If you do not vote the right people into office, it will be a free-for-all on your personal life, your business life, and the future lives of your children and your grandchildren. It is really the time, Maggie, right now, where people have to be accountable for their own freedoms. They have to step up to it, even again if it means copying the link to your show, sending it to their friends, sending it to their representatives, sending it everywhere it can be. Hold these people accountable. Find out where they stand and let them know that you're not going to support them if they stand against this country and they're selling us out not only at the national level but at the local community levels, as your former caller was discussing. So we really need to get folks into gear, or next year at this time it's going to be way too late because things will be entrenched and more difficult to undo. So you got to understand, now's the time, people. Let's stand for your freedoms, and let's stand for this country, for what it stands for. Get behind the Constitution. Get behind the right leaders.
Well, unfortunately, they control the voting machines, Sharon, and they have cooked the books on those as well. So, we can vote for whomever we want, but if they aren't the people that they want in, they're not going to get in. There was actually a fellow who had testified before Congress on how easy it was for them to be able to rig the voting machine. So if I voted for Sharon Sebastion, well, my vote wasn't recorded for you. My vote was recorded for John Doe instead, kind of a thing. And unfortunately, now what are they talking about? There's that Spanish company that is going to be counting the votes in, I think, 29 states so far. The game is so rigged, it's incredible. That's why it's so important for people to wake up locally and fight back locally. This is pitchfork and torch time here, that the masses need to be out enforced on the streets, and you have to be educated and informed first. If you don't understand what's really going on, you're going to miss the boat on this. This isn't one group against the other. It is them against us.
That's right. All Americans.
Exactly.
All Americans. And Maggie, what if I were to say to everyone listening, oh, by the way, your government that is supposed to represent and serve you is now telling you that your vote doesn't count. They've taken control. That's why at the beginning of this show, this interview, we were talking about the fact that we are in a seismic shift from this government representing the people to controlling the people. Please understand that is the end, that's the road that leads to the end of your freedoms. So, if you want any control over your life, you got to start shaking some cages. Not only on in the White House, Capitol Hill, in the states and local governments. You really need to get involved. And again, become educated. Get on the internet. Research the United Nations Green Charter, otherwise also known as the Earth Charter. Research Agenda 21. Go to the website that Maggie is listing. This is a crucial time in your life. And I'm not an alarmist. I've never been an alarmist. Like I said, I'm all for a clean environment. I want, I'd represent anybody's opinion against mine. I'd fight for their right to have that freedom of speech, because that's what we are. But we are all one people, and I listen to all sides of any view, any debate, because I think it's important. Now, I'm not here saying take word for it. I'm saying get educated, make up your own mind. I think there's a real general plea out there for Americans to understand what's going on. And so basically, it's not a one thing, one side of the political aisle or the other. It's about all of us. I feel a family of Americans losing their freedom, and that's why I wanted to do the show with you today.
Yeah, me too, Sharon, and it's just a tragedy. It's just a tragedy when you recognize what's really happening. And you know what infuriates me so much, honestly, Sharon, is somebody, while we're on air, sent me an email from a local Tea Party group who's going to have another member of another local Tea Party group come and talk to their Tea Party group just about how wonderful the Tea Party is. And there are very few people associated with the Tea Party who are actually doing anything to fight against UN Agenda 21, and it isn't because they don't know. They do. But they don't want to know what they know. So they'd rather go along pretending that, hey, like that guy who sent me the email, Mitt Romney is our savior. Please. Their devotion to ignorance is astounding to me. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. Final segment. Sharon Sebastion is my guest. Don't change that dial.
Are you really in the years? Throwing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine?
Hi, everybody. We're back. Sharon Sebastion is my guest, author of Darwin's Racists. Her website, darwinsracists.com, and you can buy her book right off of her website, as well as a myriad of other places that sell books. So thank God we're still allowed to have paper, right, Sharon? So that you can actually put the truth down on a piece of paper. It's much easier. It's much harder. Well, I suppose in a sense it's not, but it's much harder to eliminate a book than it is to have one of those little thingamajiggers where they just electronically load the book, and then they can erase some of the sentences much more easily that way, can't they? And then load it on your little, whatever those handheld devices are.
Yeah, let's hope we don't get to the day where we have to lock a book that is against current government policy, lock it in the safe somewhere and keep it out of sight,
Yeah, well, I actually know somebody who's building a library of books. I'm hoping they're going to hide them somewhere so that someday somebody might escape from these green ghettos, will be enslaved, and might escape out there and discover the truth.
Well, speaking of the truth, we're literally, don't you think today, being distracted? I mean, what are we being offered? While this America is being deliberately moved toward global governance, we're being offered free contraceptives, and I'm just saying, free contraceptives are on every other corner. I mean, what's new? We're offered abortions, sterilizations. We've got an increased use of food stamps and solar panels, all the while we're, again, deliberately being moved toward global governance. It's just a distraction.
Yes.
The real issues are not being addressed, and it puts all Americans in jeopardy of losing their rights as a free people. So Americans have to decide, Maggie. They have to decide who is selling out America and the American people. Our president seems clearly aligned with powers outside the United States. And so you ask, why is this president putting the green agenda ahead of America's restabilization and its prosperity? Why is this president basically jeopardizing our freedoms and our sovereignty, which the UN has clearly said is after our freedoms and our sovereignty as an independent nation? I mean, you really, really just read the United Nations Green Charter and Agenda 21 to see a step-by-step blueprint of what this administration is doing. And that's all you have to do to understand where the loyalties of progressives on both sides of the political parties, where those loyalties truly lie. So it's an important time, an important subject. And Maggie, your work is absolutely crucial.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'd rather be doing something else.
Wouldn't we all?
Yes, I really would. I'm telling you, I'd rather be doing something else. You know, that movie The Matrix, Sharon, have you ever seen it?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, sometimes you wonder, wouldn't you rather have just taken the blue pill instead of the red one? You know, truly, because, boy, once the truth is revealed to you, it is a mind blower, and you can never go back.
But Maggie, let me make one point, and you have it in a quote from Mark Twain posted on your website that really exemplifies your show, your efforts to the betterment of this nation. So I know you're not backing away. You know, as the quote is, in the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man or woman, brave, hated and scorned. And then it reads that when his cause succeeds, however, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. So thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Sharon. Listen, I got to cut you loose. We're going to Oz, everybody. Sharon Sebastion has been my guest this morning. Don't lose heart. Chin up, everybody. Better days are coming. We have people like Sharon Sebastion in the world who are fighting for you and I. The sun will come up tomorrow, and another great show follows mine. And Greg Evanson is my guest on my Sunday show, so tune in. I'll see you back here on Monday and my Sunday show on Orion if you want to join me at noon Eastern. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Beyond the rain, somewhere over the